thank you very much, and thank you for staying here. And it is great to have here Marc and Nicolai, who are very important members of the community here because they are representing two very important initiatives, activities that are taking place in this country. One of them is, I start from you, Nicolai. You are a community leader from CV Labs.
Global head. Global head,
sorry, because you were promoted last year, right?
Yes, after leading the CV Labs.
Exactly.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you very much. And then Marc Degen, who is the CEO from Trust Square. So welcome everybody. Can you please introduce a little bit yourself and the activities that you are performing in Trust Square? Marc, I start with you.
Yeah, so basically Trust Square is located in 3 locations here in Zurich, more or less around 5,000 square meters we have, where we have 3 different activities. So basically we provide a co-working space for tech innovators. We run a series of events. We also had 2 side events yesterday and the day before to this event here. And also we provide a series of different services to help entrepreneurs operate their core operating system. And Trust Square was established end of 2017. The idea came together that we need somewhere a space where all those crypto innovators somehow can meet and interact. And why was this so important? Because at the end of the day, also from the own entrepreneurial journeys, we learned that there's so many accidents that happen somehow that evolve into big things. Everybody of us has somewhere in their past, in their history, this small little thing that happened. A person you met and now you're married and you have kids. A person you met and now you just created a company and you had a great idea. Somebody that told you this is bullshit and you avoided doing it and went for something else. It's also completely changed your life. And this is what I call a little bit this entrepreneurial butterfly effect. And this has to happen when people come together. And this is the purpose, the core purpose of Trust Square is at the end of the day, we want to bring all those like-minded people together in an entrepreneurial spirit that want to expose themselves to new edge technologies, like blockchain being one of them, and go through those all those little accidents that have to happen to create something big that not only changes their life, also eventually, over time, also impacts all our lives. And this is more or less what we stand for.
Fantastic, Marc. Thank you very much. We also have accompanied your journey, starting from Bank of Strasse and now to this new place, also now growing into the lake as well. Nicolai, CV Labs then, and CVVC.
And CVVC, right. So we have 2 brands. I'll start with the first one, which is CVVC, stands for Crypto Valley Venture Capital. So we are a VC investing in blockchain technology or Web3 technology. Established 2016, but starting to invest in 2018. We invested in roughly 60 projects globally. 41 went through our acceleration program, and the rest was direct investments. But on the other hand, we have something similar to Trust Square, because we believe that just investment is not enough. We need to support the startups a bit more, and that's why we founded CV Labs, which is, so to say, the ecosystem builder of CVVC. Under this brand, we have multiple activities and services. So one would be co-working spaces. We have one in Zug with roughly 150 tenants and blockchain tenants. So everything what I'm talking about is blockchain or Web3. It's here in Zug. Then we have one in Vaduz, Liechtenstein, in Paris, in Berlin, in Lisbon, Lisbon, and in Cape Town. As well, we do a lot of events, community events. At these hubs, we have a flagship event called CV Summit, roughly 1,000, 1,500 attendees per summit. The next one will be in October, where we have a lot of corporate partners, because we try to build a bridge between corporates and startups. So, last year's event, we had like Visa, Citibank, Google, part of the event. We do as well regional reports. where we kind of showcase what's happening in the different regions that we're in the Web3 space. And last but not least, on the brand of CV Labs, we have our acceleration program, where Claudio is as well doing workshops. Yesterday, no. Wednesday, you did a workshop, our program, because we are at our 5th batch at the moment. It's a hybrid program going 3 months, when we have roughly 150 mentors and experts from, all key players in the industry, from the L1s, Near, Polygon, Cardano, you have the exchanges, market makers, auditing companies who, support our startups throughout the journey. And then, in a nutshell, we are a venture capital with a plus. CV Labs is the plus, and under this brand, next to investment, we give startups a space to work, a voice throughout our events and activities, and the whole network and community building part.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I think that in a way also your activities are complementary, because you have been building together, and we have done a lot of collaborations with you. We have the lecture series together with Trust Square. We always welcome as well the students from our programs as well to CV Labs, so it is a fantastic community that we are building here. And perhaps the first question that I have with respect to the Swiss ecosystem, which is an important thing. We were mentioning today, there are a lot of startups, there are a lot of associations, a lot of initiatives. Now the people from the NFT Association is here, but there have been several over the years spanning and flourishing. So if you are talking to an international crowd, so why should Switzerland be the location for a Web3 venture, Marc?
Well, I think there are multiple reasons. I mean, one is, from my perspective, the most obvious is the easy clarity you have basically in the foundations of your company. So we have a very accessible ecosystem also from a governmental legal compliance part, where you have a predictable outcome. I mean, whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, at least what the outcome is, it is what it is, and it stays the way it is. And this is something where you have a foundation. On this foundation you can build. And also there is the whole regulatory space is also a little bit in a wait and see, let's say, principle. So basically they also let stuff happen and basically just make sure in a certain aftermath that it's somehow on a good let's say compliance. And I think that's a very, very important foundation where you can build something on, and then you have of course all the other attractive reasons why being here, from having access to talent in all different things, in being used, working in international settings, that basically it's totally clear that you have a mesh-up of a high diversity workforce that's here. Switzerland is used to work with abroad collaborators, so you have a very easy way to operate, because yes, of course, we have an extremely high cost level, but I mean, there is basically no company that has 100% of their staff here, and also the whole ecosystem supports this. And I think this combination made it quite unique a couple of years ago, that you could start something and it still exists, and it could be built on here, and actually then flourishes into what it is today.
Nicolai, you then I think that perhaps you share the view of Marc, but which are the key players that you think that are needed in order to have such a strong ecosystem?
I mean, you always, I mean, I totally agree, Marc, what you said, right? The foundation, it's the government that you talk to, which is important. You can talk to the government and they set rules and it's clear, right? The outcome is clear at the end. And this is one important player, right? So the government needs to be active, or kind of, wants to learn and implement rules, right? Then you need to have, obviously, talents, right? So you need to work with universities, universities active in the ecosystem, especially when you talk about tech, doing research and so on. You need to have founders, so you need to have startups who obviously start building that you need investors, because you always need capital to fuel the whole ecosystem. You need corporates who are looking for innovation, to work together with startups working on pilots and that. And Switzerland, if you look in Switzerland, you have that, right? As well, when you look in Zug, because we are based in Zug, which I can talk a bit more, there you have, for example, Siemens right around the corner, and this is as well active in our acceleration program, supporting the startups, right? So I think these are kind of the key players that you need to have involved in a strong ecosystem where you can build a strong ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Nicolai. You know that a few years ago, you mentioned, Marc, 2017, when you were founded, one of the, I always remember that you were in the Bahnhofstrasse, just in front of the SNB, and in that original night in which there was the launch, there was this projection of the Bitcoin logo on the SNB Bank. Do you remember this thing? But then what I'm saying is, we have been living for quite some years, and you have been present, we have all been present and seeing how the ecosystem evolved over time. Can you please try to build up, for the people that do not know it, a little bit of the history of how the ecosystem grew over the years, and how did you get involved? Actually, it's also a very interesting thing that I always want to learn.
How I got into the ecosystem, yeah, well, that was
an accident.
Yeah, well, that's exactly one of those butterfly effects, and it's also, I mean, what you also said, I mean, this accessibility. You could phrase it as accessibility, and so. And I came across the job ad of the Reinbold Foundation when they were looking for a managing director. There was some kind of a sentence up there that catch my eye. I was like, what the heck is this? And went somehow down the rabbit hole. I mean, of course, I only understood about max 1/3 of the blog posts of Vitalik back then. I mean, it wasn't even launched yet.
Yeah.
But I was somehow, I was coming from e-commerce, transactional telco payment background. So for me, this transactional issue was totally clear, and I totally bought in. And what I did then is, I mean, I cannot code, so what I did, I just wrote to some professors and asked whether I can do a diploma thesis with an idea. And this is also how I then, over some accidents, met, Thomas is here, was working at UCH. And this collaboration actually then led to the establishment of a company. Modum, back then, we established, made an ICO in 2017, had a great success all over the time, and with the whole timeline. Of course, I mean, there were a lot of button diffs in between, but at the end of the day, I mean, that was the accident that caught me into this whole thing, and exactly this accessibility also, that it was possible back then that yes, you could basically call up the tax authorities and ask them, how do you do an ICO? And as long as you didn't talk about tokens and just said, well, just think in Excel sheets, and if it's doing in Excel sheets, then that's basically it. And this is how we basically constructed this whole concept, and it worked. And and I think this quadruple play about you have to involve governmental bodies, academics, corporates, and startups, because our first big client was the Swiss Post, where we actually launched I guess the world's first enterprise product in the market launched that was using a blockchain, actually for silly reasons if you look back today, but it still did. And you had, I mean, everybody dared to do this, and this was 2017, 18. I mean, that was very, very early. And I think this is where this all then evolved. I mean, back then, it started. And so we were focusing also from a TrustSquare side only on startups. And then we saw, okay, well, startups in the co-working might be not the perfect cohort of customers because they're dying by design, either because they grow out. So, for example, Signum was established, had their first office at TrustSquare back in 2018. Now they have a couple hundred people. We had B3I in us. They don't exist anymore. So I think this all happens, and this is also why we involved our service portfolio around that, because we saw, well, on the one side, just banking on co-working startups, we saw what happened with WeWork. So okay, we might also think about let's let corporates in, because in the beginning we declined all corporate requests because we thought we have to be pure. And then we added all those events because we got just requests to do events. It wasn't a plan, it just happened. And then, well, okay, we could actually also charge for that. And the same was also then for the services. So where we saw, okay, all the startups have issues with insurance and VAT, and then how to get a bank account, how to get the accounting right, especially if you mix then fiat with crypto. And we also had the problem ourselves. So we solved it for us. The more I talked about this, the more clients we got. And this, I think this is the evolution and the accessibility, which is especially simple in Switzerland because it's still rather small. Yep. So you can access everybody somehow, at least via 1 or 2 connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicolai, thank you very much. Nicolai, how did you get into?
How did I get into? So I was a student, my bachelor. I was doing a lot of startups since I'm 17. So I had like a co-founder, which I'm doing all these projects. And then one day he told me about Bitcoin. He's like, yeah, there's Bitcoin Swiss. I think I'm going to join them as well. So I was still in my studies. So he became the 5th employee at Bitcoin Swiss. So for those who don't know, Bitcoin Swiss is a broker who was one of these first company in Switzerland, founded in 2013. Have now roughly 250, I believe, employees here in Switzerland. So he became like the 5th employee. I got more interested, and then I did actually my bachelor thesis with one of the 2 big banks, or now there's just one, so I did it with the one that still exists. I did a blockchain framework for them, 2017, for their foundation they have. And like this, I kind of got into the space. I used to do, in my last year of my bachelor's, I did an internship at a firm called Inacta. It's based in Zug. And one of the 2 founders founded then CVVC and CV Labs, and I was then the first employee building up the acceleration program from scratch. Yep. That's how I got in.
Thank you very much. And how do you think, because you were mentioning, this space is always characterized by turbulent periods. We have been there in 2016, we have been there in 2019, we have been there as well last year and perhaps as well this one. But specifically with respect to the last one, the one that we are still perhaps experiencing, how do you think that the current financial turmoil has influenced the Swiss ecosystem? And it is, you're staring at me, so I start with you.
Well, I had exactly this discussion basically yesterday night over dinner, where we were a little bit trying to this discussion about was it now good, was it bad, blah blah blah. I mean, at the end of the day, the outcome, the true outcome on the economy, I think we know maybe in 5 years, because if you see all these cross effects that are happening, now it's talking about those 2 big banks. I mean, UBS now doing insane revenue or EBITDA reporting, which has a crazy tax impact, which again offsets other effects, or due to the just some legal details that there is an ownership change in the real estate portfolio of one of the biggest real estate owners, Credit Suisse. There is a vast amount of taxes that have to be paid. So is this now offset with the social impact? I mean, I don't know. Probably somebody at the University of Zurich will soon figure this out. But I think there are so many cross effects. The only thing you can do, you can just take the fact and move on. And this is basically also the same, and it's the same behavior that I'm not that shocked by that, because I mean, I saw now 7-8 years crypto. Well, you just take it and move on. Yeah. That's the only thing you can do. And everything else just makes you nut. And if you go and try to figure out all those variants, what might happen, I mean, You can also take another theory. I mean, how can it be that that we are all talking about a huge market with huge volumes, where the biggest liquidity provider on earth, nobody knows who owns it, whether they omitted some sanctions or not, where their domicile is, and all this. I mean, how can such a market even be seen as a market as long as this thing exists? So there are so many variables you can look at, where I usually get to the point, well, relax, Max, focus on the fact, and move on. Take it where it is.
Yeah. Nicolai, and specifically with respect to all the crises that were triggered in the blockchain ecosystem itself last year, what do you think do they represent a threat or an opportunity for the Swiss ecosystem?
So I think it's an opportunity, right? It's again an opportunity, and you know, what happens with FTX and so on at the end, you know, what shows is there's bad actors. It's not a bad technology. You know, where back in the days, blockchain is bad, blah, blah, crypto is bad. No, that's not true. It's the guys behind it, right? And you have this in every industry. But there's a lot of trust again in Switzerland. Obviously, the bank situation doesn't help that much, but in the space there's a lot, right? So you know, foundation-wise, you know, as we said before at the beginning, having clear structure, we know the outcome. You know, we are regulated, we have rules. We see a lot of startups coming internationally asking again more to set up something here in Switzerland, you know, set up a foundation. I have this call almost weekly to set up a foundation in Switzerland from the States. A lot of people want to move out in the States, from the States to Switzerland, move the company, or to Europe, I would say to Europe, not just Switzerland, right? And obviously, you know, crypto winter was here. Maybe we are now in autumn, or spring. We're now in spring. But you know, important is this is not our first crypto winter, right? And what's important to know, especially you know for you guys who hack, it's a time to build. The best projects come out of this crypto winter, right? And I think that's something we need to, you know, to have in mind and you know, go in the right direction. But yes, I would say I think it's it could be a positive outcome for the Swiss ecosystem. Stuff that happens.
Thank you very much. Once again, we are here in Ethereum Zurich. So which is the role that you think Ethereum has had in all this history, but also is currently, which role is it playing now?
Well, I think the vision and also the execution behind Ethereum was the main game changer. And for me also coming a little bit out of a let's say a little bit idealistic touched world of let's remove fiat from the ecosystem, more to this combined, I can transform or transact value and information and ownership representation at the same time within one transaction. And I think this is the key thing with all the flavors that evolved out of it. And you also see this basically at Ethereum Mafia. I mean, as the PayPal Mafia exists, also the other one exists. There were so many incredible other things, let's say, grew out of this initial thing. And at the end of the day, I mean, Ethereum is still the king. What it's all about, adoption and usage everywhere. So I think that was the event in the last 10 years.
And I think important for the history of our ecosystem here, I think Crypto Valley would not be Crypto Valley if Ethereum didn't set 2014-15 the foundation here in Switzerland, right? I mean, that's why we have Crypto Valley, is because Ethereum built up the foundation here in Switzerland.
Yeah, actually it completely changed the landscape, because also this is a completely transitional point. Before that it was much more let's say disorganized communities or governless communities, and now it became to everything that was created afterwards comes also with a legal entity in a way that is trying to steward the things. Absolutely. Let us go to the labor market here, the situation here in Switzerland for the last few minutes. How do you see that it is the labor market in Switzerland? How easy is it for that? for startups, companies, to find the talents that they need? Perhaps.
Yeah. So in Switzerland, we have around 1,200 blockchain companies active, right? Roughly 6,000, or there was last year's number, right? So 6,500 employees in these companies, which is a growing market if you compare it to, like, 2 years ago, where I think employees number were at like 1,000, 1,500. So it grew quite a lot. However, even if we said that, build a company here, set up the company here, Switzerland is super expensive. You will find a lot of good talent, which is it's super expensive for the startups. That's why you have a lot of companies looking in Berlin or in Lisbon to find talents there to support the company. But you see a lot managers, marketing, CTOs based here in Switzerland. So like the high levels are still based here in Switzerland, but the rest, because we're still decentralized, right? At the end, it's still about decentralization. People have their laptop and they can work from everywhere, which, it's just the new way that, people are working, in my opinion. But however, the whole ecosystem supports the labor market. So it grows and grows and grows.
Fantastic. Thank you. And what do you think that the government, because you started with this clear regulation, yes, and this is the last one, how can the federal government or the cantonal governments like Zug or Zurich can contribute to improve the situation?
Don't interfere.
Okay.
I think... No, I mean, to be honest, I'm not a big believer in governmental programs, especially not in a working environment, and I would consider Switzerland as a definitely working environment. And if anything starts happening in starting interfering in some punctual support here and there, I don't think that truly helps. This more helps keeping stuff alive that shouldn't be alive. And I think the best area where you find whether your idea, whatever you build, whatever you want to do has value is if you have a market that pays you for the pain or the problem you solve, and that's it. And you can do this in a small scale, you can do it in a large scale, and there are plenty of opportunities where I don't see any governmental interaction that can help at any point in time.
Fantastic, Marc. Thank you very much, and this is very much in line with the notion of community that we are trying to bring here. Thank you for this nice panel. People, thank you very much for that.